another live stream. Hope you're doing well. I'm going to be carving in this piece of cottonwood bark. It's approximately, I'm going to say, maybe 4 inches wide at the widest point, but the majority of it's somewhere in the 3-inch wide realm, at least the part that I'll be carving into. And I'm going to guess it's about, I'm going to say 15 or 18 inches long. And I'm going to be using a series of gouges and be a knife or two, a chisel. And I'm going to use a timer to keep myself accountable to the clock. I'm going to give myself about 45 minutes. So I'm going to start my timer without further ado. And I'll try to keep track of comments as folks want to give them to me. And so, yeah, hopefully everyone's doing well today. And got Mark joining us. It's a little early for some folks on the east side of the country, and those who are in other countries. Might be actually a good time, but depending on where you're at, let's get into it. Set the timer for 45 minutes.
45 minutes. Counting down.
Good morning, Adam. Good morning, Robert. Good morning, Paul, Thomas. Where do you get your prices to carve? Can you clarify, Thomas? Hi, Roberta. Hey, Cornelius. Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Especially coming from you, man. Always enjoy seeing what you're doing. So, that is awesome. Morning, Alec and Uncle Adam. Hope everyone's doing well. I appreciate the support. Go check out Cornelius Creations. He just graciously donated a super thanks, which is always appreciated. And that's awesome. I appreciate that. I never expect that, so. Yeah, so I don't often have a set idea of what I'm going to do before I start a project, but today I do. pretty decent idea of what I'm doing. See, I'm gonna try to move the camera here so you can see a little bit better what's happening. There we go. All right. How's everyone doing today? There's a bit of rot in this one. A little worried, not too worried, a little worried. All right, so I always tend to start with the nose and the brow ridge. And the brow ridge and the nose are the parts of the face that stick out the furthest. So it would make sense. And typically, as a rule, we say to start with what sticks out the furthest. There are exceptions to that. But that's kind of the way I approach carving the face. Once again, I do appreciate folks joining, and I'm very grateful. And the company is always very welcome when you're carving alone, and you're an extrovert. It can be a challenge sometimes. So I really enjoy the ability to both make a project and to have folks to share with and to spend time with and to hear from. So I was talking about it in my last live stream, but when I'm recording now for the school, which is kind of the main way that I teach carving now, I have that linked here as well. I feel sad at times that I'm not able to kind of back and forth with you in immediate real time. You know, and we have the forum and I interact with folks there. But the immediacy of the live stream is just, it's just so cool. It's just really unique. So I do appreciate the format to be able to hang out and kind of have the regular folks tuning in who, you know, kind of tune in when they can, and new folks joining. Appreciate that. And yeah. It's a really cool thing. Somebody recently expressed concern about the audio, and unfortunately, the audio doesn't really come through as cleanly as in pre-recorded videos. It's not the quality of the audio equipment I'm using, contrary to the commenter's suggestion. It's actually the live stream aspect of it. So it's unfortunate. Thank you, Rican in the Rockies, Oliver. Cornelius Creations gave me a thumbs up. A fist bump. Fist bump right back at you. Boom. Love it already. Thanks. Roberta's got a lot of hope. How is the connection coming through? I'm on my house Wi-Fi. My shop Wi-Fi is down. I'm actually waiting on a Wi-Fi extender. Turns out I had some problems with the router in here. And so, yeah. Hopefully it's coming through okay. Seems like it is. But yeah, that's kind of the problem with you know, the recorded audio, you know, especially after the fact. It's not amazing. I feel that it's almost worth the degradation in audio to have the experience of the live. I feel that way at this point. Who knows? I might change my mind, but. I think we can actually use certain streaming services to improve the quality. I'm going to look into that. Hadn't really thought about that until now, but maybe able to use Riverside FM or one of those to improve the quality of the broadcast. I'm not sure if that's the case. I've read that before. Yeah, it's funny, you know, I don't know what I'm thinking when I'm doing this stuff, to be honest. Like, when I'm teaching, I'm just kind of deconstructing what I'm doing. I'm kind of observing and deconstructing. But when I'm carving, just like now, you know, there's almost a certain degree of autopilot, you know, that comes into it, which isn't all that helpful. But but this is really fun. Whereas teaching, you know, if I was doing a video for the school, this would be a lot more challenging because and exhausting. I mean, I'm experienced as a teacher, so it's something that I feel capable enough to do, but it's just really to teach as I'm being creative all at the same time. So I find that when I do a video for the school, it's super rewarding, but I feel a lot more physically tired than when I do a live stream. The live streams kind of energize me, and second, let me text my wife here. Get that mouth in. Yeah, there's a big rot line that runs through his whole face, but sometimes you just gotta push through. Appreciate the likes and comments and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, to see more content like this, to get notified about live streams, and if this is what you're into carving, and to this sort of thing, I guess. So I'm not sure if the live stream, I don't know how long this technology on YouTube has been around, but it doesn't seem to be very popular. At least I don't feel as though I'm seeing a lot of people live streaming on YouTube. Am I wrong about that? Do you guys follow other folks who live stream? Is it unpopular for a reason, or is it just something I'm not seeing because I'm not searching it? Just curious. I really don't know. Also, if you're watching this, always love to hear where you're listening from. maybe what state or country. Always kind of neat to hear where folks are hailing. Excuse my head. I love the lives and watch them when I get a notification. I'm Shawneetown, Illinois. Shawneetown, farthest southern tip of Illinois. Very cool. Indiana. You're right. It seems live streaming has slowed down a bit. Okay. Yeah, I don't know what that's about, but was it popular before? I'm not sure about it, to be honest. He's got a Jay Leno chin, doesn't he? Maybe a bit excessive. Thinking of you this morning as I unboxed a number 4 1-inch 2x. Very cool. Oh, it may have a defective one for $50, but I'm not sure. Oh, Paul is saying that they're not as lucrative as putting the same time into creating a video, but they love the personal aspect. He loves the personal aspect of it. Adrian, Michigan. Texarkana, Arkansas. All right. Very cool. Once again, I appreciate Cornelius Creations. Appreciate him for the donation. I never think about. Yeah, I really appreciate it. I forget that you can do that to folks on live streams. That is so fun. projection of the nose on this. One way I can do that is bring the nose or the forehead down and the mouth down. And then kind of all the surrounding structures. So. You know, it's so small, this guy. It kind of adds a different level of challenge to a carving when you're working on such a small scale. Which is kind of cool. Okay, that's a little better. I watch 6 different weekly live streams every week. Oh, very cool, Dave. Have you ever painted over dead flat? No, I haven't. Let's see, how are we doing for time here? A little over halfway through. Man, time just absolutely flies during these. I can't believe that 25 minutes has passed, or close to 25 minutes has passed. Unbelievable. So I kind of grew up and spent the first, 9 years of my life in a suburban neighborhood, upper middle class suburban neighborhood. Maybe middle class, actually, now that I think of it. There was nothing super palatial. I mean, there were a few big homes in that neighborhood, but most of them were nice, but fairly modest, newer. Doesn't matter. The point is, I grew up in an environment where, there were lots of kids around, lots of young people to hang out with and play with, and I was definitely kind of a twerpy little kid. I was small. I was, there was some degree of bullying happening when I was a little kid. Nothing serious, but from my neighbor, who was also, my best friend. Some degree of bullying and some degree of, I don't know, just being little and getting beaten up on, right? As a little kid, it's kind of the way it goes if you're a small kid. And, it wasn't a huge deal, but, or maybe it was, who knows? I don't remember. But the point is, going from that sort of like constant stimulation, right? From being in school and coming home, and then just, you guys who grew up in a suburban environment with lots of kids around, you just play all day with your friends and have fun. It was an awesome time. Aside from being smaller than everyone and getting beat up occasionally, it was a good area to grow up in. It really was. It was a positive environment, positive upbringing. But what I found interesting about the kind of introduction of wood carving into my life is that it coincided with us moving to a pretty rural part of the same county. So we moved must have been 30 minutes north or more into this kind of rural part, dirt road, kind of 20 minutes from the nearest big town. And, houses were, a few 1,000 feet apart from one another instead of a few 100 feet or less. Instead of tens of feet, more like they were, thousands of feet apart from one another. We lived on 10 acres. And, we had a nice pond. I don't know, I'm going to say 150 foot by 400 foot pond. Deep, kind of natural. It wasn't an excavated pond. It was like a kettle. Meaning it was like glacial, at least what I was told is that it was probably from the melting of some, iceberg of some kind. Anyway, the point is, had lots of access to to nature. I mean, I was fishing, I was hunting, not really doing much hunting. I was taking pictures of animals mostly. I had a nice camera I bought from Costco, and I thought I was going to be a photographer because I loved hiding in the bushes and taking pictures of heron and birds and kind of stalking birds and I liked taking pictures of flowers and I mean, gosh, if I had stayed in that neighborhood and somehow developed those interests, people would have thought, I would have been made fun of at a whole nother level, right? Because of my hobbies, I like birds, I like flowers, these aren't manly hobbies. So, I was definitely kind of weird, right? At this point, I was also homeschooled. So, moving out of the school district, my parents decided to homeschool me after meeting this really sweet homeschooled family. And so I had more freedom as a result of that, more free time, more freedom. And hunting and blowing stuff up and fishing and guns, target practice, all this stuff, including kind of whittling on sticks. Sharp knives were the coolest thing ever when you're a 12-year-old boy. A gun and a sharp knife is a 12-year-old boy in the country's best friend. So carving kind of just made sense growing up, spending the latter part of my childhood in that environment. It's just like you have a lot of wood around, you're always playing with knives. Best way to test a knife is on a twig. And so my buddy kind of introduced me to carving sticks, and we would kind of whittle sticks. And his memory of it, I don't remember this at all, I have zero memory of this, but his memory of it is that I was really good at it. and then he kind of gave up his wood carving hobby, and I just kept it going. And so, and it wasn't until, you know, I was a little kid that, maybe later, actually 12 years of age, where a teacher kind of suggested that we try carving through a booklet. And we did some soap carving in a class, and then she got, you know, directed my mom to this booklet, step-by-step guide to carving wood. And you know, I mean, I sat there on the porch in the yard for the first time, kind of transfixed by something, you know, like where literally time and space went away, and I woke up from this trance, and it was, you know, hours later, and I had completed this carving. That's how I still remember. That's exactly how I felt, and I remember feeling like, man, you know, something about this is different. Time has never passed that quickly before. Maybe that's not, to most people that might not seem like a positive thing, but to me it was like pretty cool experience, you know. Looking back, that's what we call that, flow, right? Flow state, where time kind of goes away. And I still experience that when I carve it, you know, not every time, but when I'm in the groove, time just escapes me and the day just flies by. Sometimes it's actually nice to have the timer going just so that I'm able to keep track of the time a little bit better in between going in and out of flow state. But maybe that accounts for why I'm a big fan of the timer. But I mean, I kind of was hook, line, and sinker taken by wood carving, and just spent a lot of my time. I remember being a little kid and spending tons of time in the shop carving, finding cottonwood bark on YouTube being carved by Ron Adamson, and looking for cottonwood trees everywhere, trying to figure out how to identify them, and finding a cotton tree out about 5 minutes from our house, picking it off of the dead tree, and carving that. You know, spending most of my time doing that. It's kind of funny, I still have the same hobby that I did then, and I'm still doing it as much or more than I did as a 12-year-old. Hey, he was homeschooled. Cornelius was Creations was also homeschooled. Yeah. I agree with Paul. Monetizing shorts videos. Oh boy. Lots of comments I missed. The live streaming seemed somewhat popular until shorts videos came out. After TikTok arrived on the scene, I think it forced other social medias to start monetizing short videos. He agrees with Paul. Okay. Cool. Yeah, I've heard that there are other platforms that are good for live streaming as well. Maybe I'll have to look into those too, because I do enjoy this medium, or the, you know, whatever you want to call it, live streaming. It's really a fun way of making stuff. Have people watch in real time and hang out. So yeah, I guess if I would have stayed in Robin's Nest in Shelby Township, Michigan, sort of, you know, whatever you want to call it, the, you know, suburban lifestyle, I don't know that I would have thought about carving or come to carving. Who knows? But man, I don't know what I would have been doing otherwise. Like, I can't picture a scenario where my life is worked out really well and things are going great. I'm enjoying myself without carving. And that's kind of a weird thing. Maybe, you know, who knows? Maybe I'd be gosh, I mean, I guess I might have gone into nutrition. Maybe I've been a nutritionist, or something health, physical therapy, something like that. Which, hey, that would have been a good life too, right? But you know, getting to wake up and make stuff is also really awesome. So you know, it's interesting to think about though. Like, what would have happened had we stayed in that kind of environment? Like, it was super impactful moving out into the country and kind of almost kind of isolating a little bit in some ways. I mean, not really totally isolating it, but it was a kind of a strange experience moving out there. I loved it though. I loved it. I think every boy should get a chance to spend some time out in the country when they're young. Hang out in the woods and grow vegetables. And you know, my grandparents had gardens. They actually owned so we grew up on 10 acres, but 5 of those were my grandparents for some time. We ended up selling it to my brother and then back to my parents. But you know, a lot of my early teenage years, you know, along with carving, was spent with my grandparents in the summertime, maintaining the 5 gardens that they had. 5 pretty sizable gardens on those 5 acres. And you know, that's why I kind of appreciate and understand where fruit and vegetables come from. And I enjoyed it. I mean, I didn't just enjoy it, I loved it. I absolutely loved gardening. I mean, I was so excited when I heard that Ford Explorer coming up the driveway in the morning, because I knew it meant that I was going to get to spend the day. So, you know, as soon as I got my schoolwork done, that I was going to get to spend the day outside with my grandparents, gardening, you know, tilling soil, planting things, watering, harvesting. You know, I mean that was the most fun. Harvesting was the real exciting part of the whole thing. But I mean, the whole process was just really neat. You know, building this building structure to kind of like to grow grapevines, like basically a little greenhouse out of old scrap lumber. My grandpa would collect. Well, he was like a master recycler. You know, he'd collect old lumber from construction sites, or burnt ends of bits and pieces of timber, and he'd reuse the same wood for years and rebuild structures, tear it down, recycle it. I mean, that kind of old world Greek mindset translated into being really resourceful. And he was really, you know, they're frugal people, you know, and it was cool. It was a good ethic to learn at a young age. And seeing how hard my grandpa worked into his 80s, you know, it was just amazing to see. And my grandma and grandpa were both very healthy for most of their lives, you know, and very fit and very active, always in the garden, always, you know, growing things and taking care of their gardens. Let's see, I'm probably 5 minutes time left. The best place to source the cottonwood, for me, it's definitely not Michigan. It's probably Montana, I would say. I mean, all along the Yellowstone River, you know, anytime you can find a fishing access point across the Yellowstone River, you're gonna find big cottonwoods with dead. And sometimes you'll find them where they're dead and the bark is kind of falling off. And that's basically the only way you're gonna get bark is from dead fallen trees. It doesn't have to be in Montana, but I find that, well, really any excuse to get to Montana is worthwhile. So that's probably part of the bias there, but yeah, anywhere in the plains of the United States is really good, really, really good. All right, so this one's actually coming along a little bit more slowly than in some ways, I guess. I don't know. Excuse my noise here. I'm just trying to pull up my reference. Don't really have a reference for this one, but I think I'm going to change that fact, at least for the headdress, because I can do it from memory, but I'd rather make sure everything's accurate. It's not going to look as good. And there's the 45-minute mark. Try to give you a little bit better of a vantage point here. I'm not seeing that reference photo, so I just have to pull it up online. tool is dull. Either that or the bark is extraordinarily hard. I'm gonna have to put this one on the bench to sharpen later. Have you considered carving the bark in landscape? Oh yeah, yeah. Actually, I have done a buffalo in landscape in bark. I should revisit that. I really like your carving just the way it is now. Thank you, Michael. Let's see if I can reposition this. No, it's just the bark. It's hard. nearing really that hour mark, so not too far off. I'm awake. Who's here? Did you want me to say something, Ken? We're going to take his Jay Leno chin down. sure what bug just tried to attack me in my shop, but yeah. Yeah, Robert. It happened to turn out that way, didn't it? Maybe that's because I'm kind of bummed out today. I was spending a lot of time listening to, yeah, maybe he did, right? Spend a lot of time listening to Bourdain, Anthony Bourdain, and started with a podcast interview and just kind of diving into his story, what happened to him. Yeah, it's just a really sad story. So that doesn't have me in a good mood. So maybe that's representing in the carving, huh? Who knows? It's possible. It's very possible. That's right. Thanks, Robert. Lisa and I are celebrating our first year anniversary. We already, technically, that date passed, the 7th, but we planned a little trip, so we're headed up north for just a couple of days, just for a night. So we're leaving for that shortly. And so today is just a day of catching up on projects before that happens. Thank you, Robert. Just shaping the eyes here. This is what is this? A sweep? Oh boy. A skewed detail knife that Helvey was nice enough to make for me. And yes, they saw that I like the Flexcut, and I'm a big fan of the Flexcut skewed knife, and they made me kind of just basically just a fancy version of it, and I like it a lot. So thanks to them. All right, guys. Well, I don't want to make this go any longer than, well, it's already longer than it needed to be, but I guess if anyone has any questions or concerns, anyone has any gripes, or I don't know, whatever you want to say, feel free to say it, and off with you. We will go away. Pretty happy with the way this turned out, though. Not terrible, not too shabby. So I actually like it. I like it. It turned out well. And yeah, that's all. I could puddle with him for a long time, but I wouldn't want to subject you guys to any more silent carving. He says, and then promptly continues to record. Let's at least put the eyes in. How about that? Oh, you know what? Why don't we do like a really subtle, like, kind of an opening? The downward gaze. Thanks, Ken. Man, it's really helpful, actually. I look at it from the side angle now to check the camera every once in a while. It's good, too, because it helps me to see things from a new perspective. And I see the problems that, at least some of the problems. You have to save seeing the problems, some of the problems at least, for once the carving has been clear coated. That's always the case where you're putting a clear coat on a carving and then you go, oh man, I wish I would have, fill in the blank, wish I would have done that or this. I don't want to sand away the character. Where's my brush? There it is. What do you do if at this point you slip and take off more than you intended, or a piece breaks off, other than cry? You just kind of adapt. It's like kind of like, I mean, no offense, Paul, but it's sort of like dependent on the situation. It's kind of like, of course, everyone says no offense before they say something offensive, but I don't think what I'm about to say is offensive. It's just like when you're playing chess, you can't really ask, you know, a chess player what the best move is. It's always dependent on the situation, right? So it just depends on what breaks off. You know, like if the procedure is always different. But usually I have kind of a way of getting around breakage. And if I don't, like you guys saw in one of my live streams where I carved this green man, there really was no solution but to push the face way back in further. But it made the carving a lot better because look at all that depth. You know, the carving, the face was over here, like at the surface of the piece, and this is just way more interesting. So almost always forces you to make a better carving when something goes wrong. So that's a good question, though. Yeah, and then definitely crying is part of it for sure. No, you actually, it's kind of like you kind of expect it to happen almost. You get used to it. You almost have to expect things to go wrong instead of to expect that they won't. Yeah, Paul says he's had a few caricature carvings that have broken, and it can be so disheartening. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it is. It's frustrating when something doesn't go your way and you're not expecting it. But when you're carving bark, it teaches you to be on guard and to expect that a little bit more. Maybe with basswood, I kind of relate. I feel like it's even more frustrating because the wood is a little bit more sturdy, and when something breaks, you almost feel surprised, and it's harder to kind of cover up those things, especially when you're carving it after somebody else's project, or you kind of have an end goal that's, especially if it's near, you know, for instance, you know, to Paul's point, you know, if something happened now, it would be a little more frustrating than if something happened earlier on, because I could make a big adjustment early on, but it'd be harder to do that now. So yeah, thank you guys for watching, for liking this video. Helps a lot. And those of you who have already done that, I really appreciate you, and helps promote it. And so long as you guys keep watching, I will keep making these videos. So thanks for it, and I hope to see you in the next one. I'm going to be working on a new project for the school, which is it's going to be pretty neat. I'm excited to put that one out. Yeah, there's definitely more to do on this face, but he turned out pretty well for now. I'm going to leave him, work on him a little bit more at a later time. Oh man, of course I say that, and then I see a change that needs to be made. Anyway, thank you, Cornelius. Thanks for the very generous donation, and appreciate you folks for tuning in. And I'll see you in the next one. Oh yeah, I was gonna show you the carving. Hold on. This is going up live to the school. Hopefully tonight. When it's all said and done, it's when it's finished. It's not finished, but it's gonna be a green woman. So, all right, guys. See you in the next one.